Okay, we're recording.
What was your impression of Bible versus Book of Mormon movie?
Video, I thought it's interesting how people are trying to explain what they view as anomalies, but I honestly was left unimpressed. I think it could have been far stronger, truly.
Do you think they took into consideration evidence that has been found for the Book of Mormon?
No. Not nearly to the extent that I believe we have at this point in time, no. I don't think they engaged the Book of Mormon text at all.
So do you believe that they researched at all?
Oh, sure. I mean, they traveled on location. It looked great to be on location, but research, to me, it left me the impression that there wasn't much to be said in favor of the Book of Mormon. And in my library alone, not that I've bothered to count all of the pages, but I have at least 100,000 pages of printed material discussing various aspects of the Book of Mormon. And of course, some parts of them are going to be stronger than others. Not every parallel has the same strength, but no, in the mere, what was it, hour and 10-minute film, no, I just wasn't impressed. I thought there was much, much more they could have done.
So do you feel that they ignored any kind of evidence from the Book of Mormon to get the facts that they wanted?
Absolutely. No question. Yeah.
Do you believe that they were truthful or accurate in any way whatsoever?
I believe they were sincere. And that can take you so far, but I mean, we're not... In a way, by selectively picking and choosing, everyone picks and chooses. I mean, nobody can include all of the evidence that's available on any one document, no matter what one you're talking about. So there has to be picking and choosing. It appeared to me that they picked much more for the Bible and left way too much out with the Book of Mormon, in my opinion. And in that case, sure, they were biased, and I believe they presented a slanted view, but again, subjectivity comes into play no matter what documents we're studying. Everybody has a bias. You know, Hugh Nibley taught us that 30 years ago. It's okay to admit up front someone has a bias. You can't even produce history without having something to say, which means you take a bias either for or against something. In my opinion, though, their bias against the Book of Mormon is far too slanted, based on what lots of evidence that I've been reading about in the last 25 years that have come out. Based on what we have available to us, the impression they left is that there's nothing here to say, which is completely false. Absolutely so.
Is the Book of Mormon comparable to the Bible? And if so, in what ways?
Oh, sure. As far as books of Scripture, the thing that people have noticed, say, since Hugh Nibley's writings, is the Book of Mormon, based on what we understand and know now on how it came forth, and the speed and the manner with which it came forth, it's an astonishingly huge text. 500 pages. Could you imagine being asked to write a research project in, say, the time of a semester, is how Hugh Nibley used to put it to his BYU students. In one semester, if I was to give you an assignment, you have a 500-page paper to present to me by the end of this semester. Well, a student wouldn't say, he is nuts. There's no way we could do a 500-page research paper. But that's what Joseph Smith produced. Now, granted, the Bible is larger than that, of course, but it's got how many more thousands of years of accumulated time for the various prophets and priests and writers and annalists and chroniclers to amass the poetry and the literature. But in comparing the two books, the one is far older. The Bible, of course, has been around a lot longer than we've had the Book of Mormon. So there are comparisons, but there are significant differences.
Has evidence confirmed 100% of the events and the cities in the Bible?
the evidence hasn't confirmed anything 100%. Not even Albert Einstein's materials are confirmed 100%, and they've been some of the most tested, along with the amazing information on the new science of the quantum physics and mechanics. Anything from a science viewpoint cannot be 100% confirmed. Not that I'm aware of anyway at this point. So no, that's not to denigrate the Bible and what we do have. What we do have is really interesting. It's certainly worth studying. It's certainly worth trying to understand. But no, 100%, nothing is 100%.
But archaeologically,
Especially archaeologically. See, the interesting thing, the archaeology that the Living Hope Ministries video presents, the impression that you get from seeing their material is that we have something solid here, and we have a final answer. I honestly don't know of any... See, I've been reading a few various different archaeologists. Archaeology, biblical archaeology, is largely an American, Protestant, male thing. It's very interesting to see that it is the Americans who love to present the Bible as proven archaeologically. The Israeli scholars, they don't look at archaeology that way at all. They're not looking at all in that mannerism of, we're going to prove so-and-so did this and said this. Their whole method of archaeology is way different than American archaeology. Archaeology itself isn't a singular discipline. You can't just say archaeology proves this, or else archaeology disproves that. There's no proof. It's such an interesting situation. I believe most scholars, most archaeologists will deal much more with plausibility. There's a possibility. Because see, I mean, what was the understanding of how the Bible was put together pre-1945? Before we had those magnificent Dead Sea Scrolls. What was the theories about the biblical composition? It's way different than since 1945. The Dead Sea Scrolls changed almost everything we understood about ancient Judaism, about how the Bible was put together, about what the Bible is, about what prophets are, about what apocalyptic is, about where does Israel stand in relation to the Gentiles, about the temple priesthood in Jerusalem, the cultists in Jerusalem as well as outside of Jerusalem. The Dead Sea Scrolls blew the walls out of the house. It did, in some respects, lucky us, it did confirm some aspects of the Bible, and we always welcome that. In other respects, the Dead Sea Scrolls completely took our breath away. We still are reeling from the impact of those Dead Sea Scrolls, and we're 60 years down the road, and we still don't even have them all translated yet. So, proof, I don't know of any good qualified scholar or archaeologist who will ever deal with proof. That's a largely American phenomenon, and it's a red herring.
Do we need 100% proof or archaeological evidence to believe something? Does it have to be proven for belief to prosper?
You know, I think for some people they do need that. That's true. And in a way, I feel sorry for them. If you have to have all of your ducks lined up in a nice, pretty, even row with no contradictions, no problems, everything proven right down to the point, you're not going to believe a thing. What is proof? 100%. If the Bible... Now, my impression of this video is that these folks are basically saying, look, we have so much material on this book, the Bible, and we have absolutely nothing for this book, the Book of Mormon. Therefore, because we have so much proof for this book and none for that one, maybe you ought to believe this book and not that one. This is how they've set this situation up. If the Bible is so proven, why am I arguing with atheists on the internet to this day. And I have asked biblical archaeologists on the internet, come and talk to some of my atheist friends. Truly, I want to see, because the biblical archaeological materials that these folks are showing me on the internet impress me. I like it. I say, yeah, that makes sense. That's a wonderful confirmation of some of the prophecies of Isaiah, or how the Dead Sea Scrolls folks use the Old Testament prophets, the Habakkuk and Jeremiah. I personally find that exhilarating. My atheist friends say, you're brainwashed and you're a moron. I go, I'm not presenting this. This is the science of archaeology, though. They say it's your bias, it's your interpretation, and it's hokey. So 100% proof? No. I don't believe that'll ever exist. And does it have to? Why? Why do you have to have 100%? What discipline in life? Take your pick. Astronomy? My goodness, we just launched the Space Telescope. And look how it has absolutely wiped out everything we thought we knew about our universe. Because now we can put it out there up to the sky, much closer. Our magnification is 1,000 million times stronger, much clearer. Now we don't have the disturbances of the Earth's atmosphere. Now we can really see things, and look how it's completely transforming everything that's been written on the science of astronomy. Same with archaeology. Whether it's in the Mayan civilization, the African civilization, the Egyptian civilization, it just doesn't matter. 100% proof does not exist. Not now, not here. Can't do it.
Which part of the Bible can be proven? When is there actually evidence? Where in the Bible does evidence begin to happen?
Now that is a great question. Because even that is up to an individual to either accept or reject. When does evidence? I have asked this of my atheist friends on the internet. I've said, what would it take for me? What evidence would you be willing to accept from the biblical archaeology standpoint? You know what they say? I'm not going to. I go, whoa, I'm talking about a legitimate science here. One that has hundreds of accredited universities. I'm talking about men who have 2 and 3 PhD dissertations, degrees. They have been in 200 to 300 digs. They're well qualified. They have teams of thousands of helpers. They're funded through very serious Harvard, Chicago University, Israel's universities, and the atheists flat out say, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to believe in it. Jesus did not exist. God is not real. Go ahead and go play in the sandbox of archaeology in the dirt. So what? Well, now with that approach, if our critics take the same position with the Book of Mormon, is it up to us to try to prove it through archaeological means? Heavens no. I don't think it can be done. It can't be for the Bible. It can't be for the Bhagavad Gita. It certainly hasn't been for the Quran. The Popol Vuh is a Mayan, it's the Mayan stories, the myths, the discussions of the various aspects of the creation of the cosmos as the Mesoamericans understand it. We have discovered vast amounts of archaeology in Mesoamerica. They still don't believe the Popol Vuh is scripture. It was to those people. But that doesn't mean people accept all that. So I think proof is a very subjective thing, honest. I don't think it's meant to be, quote, proven.
Why do you think so much evidence is found, archaeological evidence is found in the Bible, while next to none is found in the Book of Mormon? Why?
Now that's an interesting question because it presupposes some assumptions. Why do you think there's so much evidence found for the Bible when there's not very much found for the Book of Mormon? How do we know? And this is such a tricky thing. How do we know there is so much found for the Bible? You see. The Israeli archaeologists who are digging in the various ruins of Ai, of Jericho, of the various Old Testament cities that are mentioned by name, they're saying what they're finding has nothing to do with ancient Israel as the Bible depicts it. Some of the scholars I've been reading in the last, say, 3 to 4 years have come out. I believe the name of the one book is A View from Mount Nebo, and I believe another name of the book is A Century of Biblical Archaeology. They have shown how from the 1900s, from 1900 through the 1960s to the 1970s, various different evidences came out for Nuzi, from Ugarit, from various different archaeological discoveries, showing that yes, Abraham was a real patriarch, yes, Noah really existed, yes, Elijah occurred, the kingdom of Israel was a united monarchy, there was a monarchy, it did split, etc. Now the archaeologists today are saying, none of that happened that way. So it's almost as if the biblical archaeological picture has almost flip-flopped to where now archaeology is showing that nothing depicted in the Bible as we have it at this point in time occurred the way it's recorded. So this is getting sticky. As a Latter-day Saint, that concerns me as much as it would a Christian. However, on the other hand, instead of forcing, it appears that the archaeologists at the first half of the last century forced the evidence to fit their theory. And of course their theory was already the answer. This is how the Bible depicts it. Therefore the evidence has to show that Israel did things this way. Otherwise they were ignoring the evidence. Well, now it's coming out that they misread all the evidence. Well, that's positively shocking. What does archaeology show? You see, that gets real tricky.